'66 Mustang, making repair patch panels instead of buying them. You want to see how it's done? Grab a cup of coffee and stick around. Hey guys, Lou here from JSF. So, new day, a new project. '66 Mustang, this will be part 3 of whatever, 2,378. So the rear trunk pans are now fully welded in. The rear support for the gas tank, that's fully welded in. Cross member, fully welded in, done. All that's left is for the owner of the car to grind down all the welds because he loves the sound of the 4.5-inch angle grinder. So before I get into the wheel wells and all that, I want to address this metal that's back here. It's pretty gnarly. This is where the tail pan sits on. It's got to be spot welded, so this metal has to be plenty strong to take the heat of the welder. Plus, you know, the idea here is to eliminate all the rust. So I got to work on both sides, get that replaced, make some replacement panels, show you how to do that. So, enough talking, let's get started. Alright, so as you can see when we're looking at the driver's side of the car here, we got a rust hole here, we got damage, we got a bunch of rust up here. So essentially, this whole section right here needs to be cut off, make a new piece for here. We got to make a new U-shaped piece to go on here. We need to straighten this out and then make a new piece to go in here. So, here we go. Alright, so we actually have two pieces of metal. On the quarter panel, we have this same shape that's here with the same holes. This looks like it's a part of probably the original tail panel that was on the car. So I'm going to cut all this out of the way and then we'll see what the inside of the quarter panel looks like. And just that looking at it from here, it looks pretty thin. Now, there's a couple of ways of doing this. What I find is the easiest and the quickest is cut off wheel, and you come across this way to find where the spot weld is. Grind down the spot weld, thin it out, and they could separate the two pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so with the piece of the old tail pan moved out of the way, strip back all the paint, see exactly what I got to work with here. So up at the top here I do have shiny metal underneath. It's not too bad. So what my plan is we're just going to start with the easiest repair first. We're just going to straighten out this piece of metal. I'll then take the welder and weld in where we cut through. This is going to have to be cut right around here and over and a new piece welded in. But for now, let's start with getting this straightened out. Oh, looks pretty straight to me. Alright, so now that that's done, I'll take the welder, start filling in these holes. Now, I know somebody out there is going to say, well, you're just going to blow holes in it. You're probably right. So we'll see how it goes. If I have to, I'll cut this slip off and replace it. But for now, let's just, like I said, start with the easy stuff. Alright, so I started welding in holes, and honestly, I just keep on blowing through this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out right along here. Weld in, cut a new piece out of 20 gauge and weld that in, and we'll be done, truss it, and we'll be done with that part. So, how do you make a template? Well, we covered that with the manila folder. I think back on the first video I did on this car. This one here, we're going to carefully cut out the actual piece and then use that. Alright, so I went out and cut out my patch piece. Now, I haven't dressed it or anything, still got a gnarly edge on it. Not worried about that. You always want to cut a little bit bigger. It's easier to make it shorter than it is to make it bigger. So now, if I just lay this up here, well, that's a pretty good fit. Yes, I want a gap for when I do my spot welds. Put this up here. Nice and flush. Okay, so now that's in place. Now I'm going to put in a million other tack welds, and I'm going to jump around because it's such thin metal, you're going to warp it. I don't want to warp it. Alright, so if I feel it's starting to get hot, I'll take my air gun, blow it off, cool it off, and keep on going. Don't be afraid to make adjustments while you're going. Those are just a bit on the cold side. And again, as I'm dealing with thin metal, I got the welder turned down. That's better. Okay, so we have our new piece put in here. Easy enough, right? So just a bunch of tack welds. This part I'm not really worried about it being smooth and all that. It's not critical. The tail panel is actually going to sit over all this, okay? And then the whole thing's going to get seam sealed. So doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to fit. Now, my next issue to deal with is this part. Ow. Is this part right here. So this, I think I'm going to take here and down. Like that. Make that piece, weld that in, pop hole in it for the headlight, tail light, and that part will be done. And then I got to remove the rest of the original tail panel down here on the bottom. But I think I got good metal underneath here, so hopefully just this and this, and we're done here. Okay, that's all we need. Alright, so here's my old piece, here's my new piece. See, the new piece is a little bigger than the old piece, which is fine. It's going to go in just like that, and again, I'll trim it to whatever size I need. So I just cut it. I'll clamp the edges. Now, if you've never done this before, the reason why clean the edges up like that is all those little shards will get in the way of your fitment, and then when you go to weld, they're just going to blow off. So like this little guy right here. Okay, so I just want to nick a little right out of that corner. Okay. Isn't that pretty? Gee. All right, so again, I'm not concerned about that. Okay, so now after a little bit of dressing, we are there. Now, this piece originally went in like that, so we know that the hole for the taillight bucket has to go right about there. I always like to double check. Now, when it comes to removing spot welds, I've gone over this. There's a couple of different ways. The piece underneath we want to save. Okay, so we don't want to drill a hole through it for a pilot hole and then take the spot weld cutter and cut these out. So the other way of doing it, which in some cases is actually faster, just take the edge of a cutoff wheel and you come in and you just go up and down until you break through the sheet metal around the weld or the weld itself. And then you can pretty much pop this or pop whatever panel is that you're working on right off. And as you're going, you'll see where the spot welds are because the metal won't move after that. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that. So that wasn't too difficult, right? So that's getting old. So now the only thing really left to do is take my sanding disc, come in here, clean up the rest of the spot welds. I'll take the welder, zap all that closed in there, and then well, gee, really after that on this side, the only thing that's left is the quarter panel skin, which is going to come up underneath here and give us our edge enclosure we need for here. So go ahead and do that. Welcome to my life. All right, welding time. Okay, go. Now we got solid metal to work with. Now all that's left is to do the other side. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this. I'm a mess. I'm working on 3 different projects. So trunk pans are in. All the repairs back here are done. Tail panel's mocked into place, fitting good. Valance panel we had mocked up here, that's fitting good. Next project's going to be the quarter panels and the inner wheel houses. Then after that we can move forward with the rest of the car. If you like what you saw, drop us a comment. Go ahead, hit that thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe. Keep up to date with all the shenanigans that are going on. Hopefully you learned something. If you didn't, well, you weren't paying attention hard enough. Again, this is not a how-to channel. This is a how we do channel. So what we do may not work for you. Most of what we do are standard practices, and sometimes we get a little creative. It's all good, right? So again, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Until we see you next time, peace.